welcome back to Brashenomics. A excellent friend of our show joins us today, Dave Duncan with the Dave Duncan Group at Keller Williams. Dave, how are you, my man?
I'm doing good. Things are great. It's been a great year.
Yeah, good. Well, assuming that the world doesn't end at, December 21st of this year, assuming we have a December 22nd and beyond, your experience and expertise in real estate gives you a little bit of hindsight in order to, I suppose, create some forecasts for the future of real estate. And I'm excited to hear them because, nothing better than looking in crystal balls.
Yeah, and I'm lucky I have access to a lot of great studies. With Keller Williams, we're into a lot of reports and studies and forecasts, and we do that 4 times a year. So I just fresh off seeing a lot of the last stuff. So I think we have a pretty good indication of what's going to happen next year.
Well, let's shake the magic 8 ball, roll the dice, look in the crystal ball, the tarot cards, whatever it may be, and let's start with some forecasts, huh?
Well, I'll start with a really anticlimactic statement I heard years ago is that how things have been, they'll pretty much be the same way tomorrow, although it's not as applicable today as it used to be. So I think in 2013, we're going to see a slight improvement, but it'll be a lot like the last 6 months we've seen this year. I think we're going to, as far as inventory goes, that's the biggest thing. You've heard probably on your show over and over.
There's no houses. I mean, you even look online and there's no houses for sale.
No, get these numbers. These are nationwide numbers, but this last year, new units created were 600,000. This next year, they forecast 750,000 units, but they forecast the need to be 1.5 million units. So again, the continued shortfall, a lot of buyers fighting for the same units. At the peak, we were at 2.5 million back in 2005. So that trend will continue, buyers scrambling for houses. There's 4 kinds of inventory. There's the REOs we've talked about before.
Sure, the bank-owned properties.
Yeah, and those are supposed to loosen up again soon, but we've heard that for a while. So I don't really expect to see that, especially in our state.
It's on that point, we've discussed, where's the shadow inventory? And at some point in time, if you don't see it, it's probably not there. I mean, they're houses. They're not needles in haystacks.
Yeah, no, they're not coming out like they talk about. All the REO agents that killed it, 7, 8, 9, they're all, not all of them, but they're struggling now because the inventory's not coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the shorts. Those are going to continue, maybe increase a tad, but I'll call it as being about the same just because the banks are figuring it out. Instead of losing a wad of money in a foreclosure, they lose half that in a short sale.
Sure.
So they're figuring it out, and that shouldn't change. New construction's actually, that's in the pipeline. There's going to be a great, great shortage in 2013. There's a lot of stuff being gobbled up, whereas in 2014 and on, there'll be a lot more units. But that inventory will actually shrink from the short inventory we have now as it is. I think the only segment that's really going to grow is going to be the mom, pa, kettle, typical equity sale, where they figure it's time to finally sell their house. Those are the people that waited on the fence for the last 4 or 5 years because since values have gone up a bit, they can swallow it.
Well, that would make sense, especially with house prices continuing to rise a little bit. That, what'd you call it, the mom and pop sale? Mom and pop equity sale?
Mom, pa, kettle.
Mom and pa kettle equity sale. All right. You can coin that. But basically, your traditional sale of a home, whether you're ma, pa, or cook with kettles, and you have the ability then to just sell a house as was done 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, you're too young for mom, pa, kettle.
I'm not sure. Maybe the joke's on me at this point.
I think that's kind of a Beverly Hillbillies thing. So
got it.
So you got to be a certain era to get that one.
Yeah, I've dated myself here, Dave. So if people are starting to, you talk about those 4 types of sales, what are some other forecasts that you have?
Well, the one offsetting thing, little side note is demand's great for fewer houses with buyers, but we are seeing fewer houses needed for some buyers, meaning because of the tough job situation, a lot of home buyers, young home buyers don't move out. They're with mom and dad. A lot of people who've moved out are moving back in with mom and dad. So that's had a small impact, but I thought that was an interesting note.
Yeah. Well, I think, is that a national number? Do you know, or is that local? I mean, are a lot of people moving back with mom and pa kettle here locally rather than nationally, or do you know?
No, I think that's a national trend.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of people coming out of college. We've talked about that. I mean, the job market is not really conducive to young people right now, unless you're maybe a computer engineer or whatnot. It's a little tougher to find those jobs, and I think there is that trend. You go and you move back home, and it's much more accepted now.
Well, my daughter graduated at law from the UW, and she graduated with honors. She did great, and it took her a little while. She finally got an intern job, and then a job at King County. Now, of course, she moved to Clark County. But
is she still at your house?
No. We jokingly say, I can't say that never on the air. No,
okay.
She's figured it out, and she does really well.
Got it.
We're proud of her.
She's out of Mom and Pa Duncan's.
She's been out for 6 years now.
Nice. Well, we're here with Dave Duncan with the Dave Duncan Group at Keller Williams. Dave, okay, so what do you see as far as prices? Everybody's thinking about their house price. In fact, they've shown huge ties to economic growth just because of the consumer confidence that's tied to rise in house prices. What do you see?
Well, again, nationally, they predict 3 to 5%. Seattle's done better. And this year, since February, we've seen 10% increase for the most part across the board. What I see next year and what I see predicted for next year is not quite that good, because that's a crazy good number. Although we're playing catch-up, is more like 7 or 8%, which is still a big number for next year.
To me, that would be very big. In fact, coming from the mortgage side of things, what that would almost mean is you could put that 10% down and potentially get out of your mortgage insurance in 1 year to 1 to 2 years. Now, of course, you don't know where rates are going to be, but there is that potential to do that.
And that'd be my question for you. Your forecast, what do they say for rates for next year?
Well, we've seen forecasts for rates to be very low. The Fed has come out talking about keeping rates low, and they're also putting that $40 billion, QE Unlimited we call it, the $40 billion a month into mortgage-backed securities. So they are pumping money into the housing market by way of low mortgage rates. Until there's a change in policy there, then rates should stay low.
And that's good to hear, which leads to something I've never seen in my lifetime, which means most of you guys haven't seen in your lifetimes.
I would guarantee if you haven't seen it in yours, I haven't seen it in mine.
And that would be that and you've heard this, it's cheaper to buy and own your own home than to rent. And so anybody that hasn't thought about that for any reason, whether it's job security, whether it's don't know where you want to live, there's no reason not to do it, because even if you move, you're going to have somebody be able to pay your mortgage because rents are higher than mortgages.
Sure. I think that is a piece of it that people maybe don't always understand is, okay, I can go buy a house, and they don't realize there's really two exit strategies. You can sell it or you can rent it. And when you put those two options on the table, buying a house can maybe feel like a little bit less of a commitment.
Totally. It's I'm biased, but it's an absolute no-brainer. The only reason I can see people not buying now is they got credit issues and need credit repair. But I know you and Ryan offer that solution. So people who need credit repair, call these guys because they can help you out.
Yeah, there's certainly a large number of people who had a tough time during the downturn, and maybe they were big into real estate. A lot of people maybe went through short sales. Maybe they gave their houses back to the bank. There's a lot of different pieces of that puzzle. But as they come out of it now, people have the opportunity to get back into it in both a primary residence and an investment perspective.
And usually, can't you turn that around in 3 to 6 months max?
What are you talking? Credit repair? We have a credit repair specialist. I don't actually do credit repair. And certainly it's a question we could ask David Murphy, who does join us on our show pretty consistently. But I don't specialize in it. So
No.
I prefer not to give an answer.
I've heard that from other people. So.
There you go.
Yeah, if they can do it, I'm sure Mr. Murphy can.
I'm sure he can. David, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. Stick around for a few minutes. Join us at the end of the show.
You got it.
That's Dave Duncan. I'm Ben Brashen. You're listening to Brashenomics.